Holy sexy sedans, Batman. We've got the Hyundai IONIQ 6, and this thing is freaking fantastic. It's one number larger than the IONIQ 5, and it's a little bit smaller as well. Let's have a look. First up, the looks. I absolutely love it, but when I first saw it, my feelings were a bit more tepid. Over the week though, it has really grown on me. What I find is interesting is that it is very controversial looking, but the bits that everybody likes and dislikes are different. Like for instance, the Rivian, lots of people hated the headlights, couldn't stand them. Whereas this right here, it might be like, I don't love the headlights. Some people really, really like them. Some people don't like the swoopiness, others do. It's a real like, I think everyone's gonna love it in 3 years, like honestly. Now I will concede that the front of this car is not the best in existence, but the design is very intentional. This has a drag coefficient of 0.21, which is the best of any production car. Asterix. Now in Europe, they have not actual side mirrors, just little cameras. And in North America, because of regulations and stuff, we get actual side mirrors, which brings the drag coefficient to 0.22, tying it with the Lucid Air and Mercedes-Benz EQS. Coming around the side, we've got rims that will look like every single other rim on the market in 2023. And we also have 20-inch tires. Now this is the ultimate package, so we get two 4.5s on it, and that actually drops your range by a lot. So this is 435 kilometers, whereas it's 509 with the ultimate package. So that gets you two 25s and 18-inch rims. That is a massive range hit just for these guys right here. Fortunately though, the charging is fantastic. Fortunately, you don't have to worry too much about range anyway, because in Canada, no matter what spec you get the 77 kilowatt hour battery and 350 kilowatt fast charging. That'll take you from 0 to 80% in just 18 minutes. That'll be absolutely fantastic if you can actually find a 350 kilowatt charger that works. Moving around back, man, she's got a nice arse on her. Two spoilers, absolutely love it. Now, these are here, of course, for aerodynamic reasons, but that does not stop it from looking freaking sick. Speaking of which, this pixelated light bar that goes all the way across the back just looks fantastic in my opinion. Also, if you want to get into the trunk, you just press right there. On our ultimate package at least, we have a nice power closing and opening trunk, and there's not a whole lot of space in here. It's not quite what you'd expect from a sedan of this size, because normally like there wouldn't be batteries down there, so you'd have a little bit more depth, but at the same time, it's more than large enough to just chuck most of your stuff, and if you really need to, you can fold the seats down. One final really cool detail is that this little antenna GPS chummy right here is actually see-through, so you can have a look at all of the insides. I actually know if there's anything of substance in there besides an antenna, so I learned something. There we go. Yeah, that's not a whole lot of space right there. I guess you can like chuck a wallet if you want. That's about it. I don't even think you could fit an LTT water bottle, lttstore.com. What's particularly disappointing is that this is an all-wheel drive model, so there's, you know, crap and a whole motor in the way. But in other regions, with the rear-wheel drive only model, you get a much larger front. But not in North America, because reasons. Oh. Hopping into the back seat. First of all, oh my God, I'm absolutely soaked. This is quite a good spot to be. Now, the rear seat has the same problem as the front seat, where you have absolute gobs and heaps of legroom, but the headroom is not so great. This is just kind of a flaw with the whole design of a car like this. You have a sedan, and then you have all of the batteries along the bottom, which just kind of moves the seats up or the floor up, and then you don't have as much headroom as you would normally have in a car of this size. That said though, at 6 feet, I'm squeaking it. I'm just in here and it is very comfy, but if you're like 6'1", 6'2", you are not gonna be having a good time back here. That said, for someone who just yeet the kids, very good. Back here we also have charging ports there, and even heated seats if you wanna, well, have a hot butt. Even though we do have white seats in here, which is not my favorite, they've given us black floor mats and the trim around the door is gray, so you're not going to get it messy nearly as quickly as something like the GV60. Hopping into the front seat, this is a very, very comfortable spot to be. These seats, even though they aren't super bolstered or anything, are just very comfortable. I quite like them. There is a bit of a problem though. If you're tall, you're going to be hitting your head on the ceiling. So to solve that, I'm leaned back a little bit further than I would like to be. But if you're like an actually tall person, like 6'3" or more, you're going to be doing this kind of a thing. It's going to be a little bit strange just driving like this everywhere. I do really wish that the seat would go like maybe an inch or so lower, because I think that would make the sort of more like sporty reclined position that I'm required to do a little bit more comfortable. Overall, this is just a very nice and comfortable spot to be. And like, there are a lot of hard plastics like this right here. Very hard, but at the same time, they've done the molds in such a way that it looks really, really good. Like, they have just a little bit of rippling that goes up the side that catches the LED lights down in the bottom in just such a cool way. They also have like all of the fabrics and stuff just feels so nice. Like, it's squishy in a way where you're not going to feel uncomfortable after even 4 hours in here. One thing that Andy doesn't like is the hard plastic right here. I still kind of dig it. It reminds me a lot of the Acer Vero laptops that use recycled plastic, and I'm sure that's what this right here is too. Now, the locks and windows are down here. I'm sure that you get used to it. I haven't in a week, but I'm sure you will. But at the same time, everything in here, it's just a nice spot to sit. One change that I really appreciate compared to the IONIQ 5 is how they've done this center console. Now, it is pretty neat how the IONIQ 5 kind of moves forward and backward if you get the Ultimate package, but I much prefer this. This center area I think is just so much more usable than having a gap in between. With nothing there, I'm always scared that something's going to roll around and end up under my brake pedal and I die. Whereas this right here, you chuck something in that, it's not going to be flipping around. The steering wheel looks pretty funky, but also is very functional. Sure, we do have glossy black up here, which kind of sucks, but the most important stuff is the rocker and the knobs, which feel and look fantastic. Also, really like these little pixels here, drive mode down there, and just overall it works quite well. Surprisingly, it isn't really obstructing my gauge cluster, which was a really big problem for me in the IONIQ 5. On the back of the steering wheel, we have some flappy paddles that allow you to choose how much regen you want of 4 different levels. The 4th being I pedal, which is 1 pedal driving, so you don't need to be using your brake to come to a full stop. The problem though is that whenever you switch to park or reverse, it turns I pedal off. So I just leave it on level 3 and deal with hitting the brake. It's fine, but I do really wish that iPedal didn't just disable itself all the time. I think this is where we finally go and drive it. But first, a word from our sponsor. VistaPrint. Thanks to VistaPrint for sponsoring this video. Are you looking to print some personalized products with your own design or logo? VistaPrint can help with that. It's as simple as uploading your design, selecting your product, and checking out. You can even create your own designs with their online, easy-to-use tools. Have an idea but aren't much of an artist? Their professional designers will help you bring your vision to life. Check out VistaPrint at the link down below and get yourself some printed goodies today. For horsepower and torque, Hyundai has given us 446 foot-pounds of torque and 320 horsepower, which means if you're going onto a highway like we did right now, it is pretty freaking quick. It's not insane like some of the electric cars that we've been reviewing, but at the same time, it is gosh darn good. Now, you don't get quite that electric snap back. Like, it gives you a good push, but it isn't jarring. But then again, nothing about this really is jarring. Like, we're going around a corner right now. It handles it well. It's not doing anything that you wouldn't expect it to. Compared to other electric cars, like, I don't know how they've made this so comfortable, but we're going over bumps right now. It's not crashy at all. It feels like the suspension is just set up well for a sedan, which is kind of, for electric cars, the biggest praise that you can give it. That said, for the most part, while I've been driving the IONIQ 6, I haven't been thinking about things like how fast it is or how well it handles corners, because it just very simply does those things very well in such a way that you just sort of relax. You just sort of sit back, hang out, and just sort of let the car take you from place to place. Particularly because it is just so quiet in here when you're on the highway. They have done an exceptional job with the sound isolation in this, just like they did on the IONIQ 5. One thing that I really do not like about this car is that there is a fair bit of like latency in the gas pedal. So even in the sport mode, when you get off the gas, it can take a second for it to figure out what the heck is going on. And this can lead to it being really difficult to properly balance the car while in corners, because like off the gas, now we're decelerating. It's just, it doesn't have that quite connected feel that I would want. And like, it's extra annoying because they're electric motors. There is no response time for them. It's just simply what Hyundai has decided to tune in. The infotainment in here is great, and it's great mostly because it is purely a vessel for Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You just plug in your phone, which you do have to plug in, no wireless Android Auto, but once it's plugged in, it just comes up here, nice big screen, it all looks great, and it all functions fantastic. The problem is, it's a little bit of a reach, so everything is sort of out here, and I have to be forward to hit all of it. Also, like, we do have climate controls down here, but pretty much all of that is also just done on the touchscreen. Like, here's the seat heater, so you hit that, and instead of it, you know, just changing your seat heating, it brings up a screen for your seat heating. It's not terrible like some of the cars have been, so that's pretty good. One thing this infotainment does make me really miss though is the dial that you get in Genesis vehicles. So like, this whole thing feels like it's set up to be operated with a dial, and it makes so much more sense when you have one in your hand. Like, I don't need some fancy crystal or anything like that. Just give me something simple down here that I can turn and go through all of that, and I would be way happier, Hyundai. That said, this is still really quite good. It's all logical, and you'll get used to it in a week or two. One thing I really like about the IONIQ 6 is just how little wind noise there is in here. Like, it makes sense. The aerodynamics of this car are exceptional, but you can just be going down the highway and it is barely different than where you're just going down like a 50km/h road. Excellent job there. What also really helps with the feeling of just easily getting to and from work or whatever destination you have is the sound system. It is pretty much as bog standard as you can get. So it's from Bose. You have 6.5 in the door, 1-inch tweeter, 8-inch sub on the parcel shelf, but at the same time, they haven't ruined it. Around $50,000, I feel like, is the danger zone for sound systems, because sometimes, like in here, you get just a very simple setup, nothing too fancy, and it sounds good. Other times, you'll get manufacturers that try to use really fancy surround stuff or put all of the bass in the door speakers, and they just sort of ruin it by trying to make it sound better. Play Crab Rave.
Ride the Brave by Dragon Force.
What? Yeah, it's pretty good. Nothing exceptional, but they haven't ruined it, and that's kind of the most important thing. I would listen to this sound system every day, just going to and from work like this, pretty good. Now, unfortunately, our lab's audio guy wasn't in this week, so we didn't actually get to test it, but my ears say it is quite flat, but there is a lot of volume dependent EQ, so you get a lot of bass at lower volumes, which is good because the sound of like the road and crap masks it. And then as it gets up, it becomes more and more flat, and I think somewhere around 80, 85 decibels maybe? It's about perfect. All right, let's do an actual launch. It is pretty good. One thing I really like about this is that it has enough power that you can feel very confident when there's like a gap in traffic. You can just be like, all right, whoop. You don't have to worry about it putting too much power down and you like ending up in the ditch or something like that. But at the same time, you can just scoot out. It's perfect for that. Of course, this being a Hyundai, it has all of the assistance features that you would expect, and they all work really, really well. Like adaptive cruise, really good job of just slowing down. You feel confident with it. I just sort of let it do its thing, even in pretty heavy traffic. Also, the lane centering is not quite as good as what you might find in like Mercedes-Benz or BMW, but in this kind of a price tier, it is as good as you can get. Fantastic job there. Overall, I just really, really like this car. Like, We're on a bumpy road right now, and it is not too harsh. They've done an excellent job of just playing to all of the strengths of an electric car and really like massaging out a lot of the downsides. It's super comfy, it's super quiet, and it's just a very pleasant place to be for like 45 minutes or so as you go to and from work. Andy just said the speed is not intimidating, but you are able to chop almost everyone. And that is a perfect way of putting it. Like, you can probably make your mom go, woo! But it's not gonna like snap someone's neck.
Your mom's probably not gonna hit you by...
Yeah, she'd be like, woo! Instead of like, stop it, stop it, stop it! Now the final bit, the price. It's very complicated. So in the US, it lines up almost perfectly with the IONIQ 5, but in Canada, it is quite a bit more. And this one that we have right here, the Ultimate Package, is $65,000. Now that's a little bit rough, but at the same time, this is one of my favorite electric cars that I've ever driven. And for the price, probably my favorite. Like, this is an exceptionally just comfortable, nice spot to be with enough pep to get a little bit of excitement in you. So huge thanks for watching, hit like, get subscribed, and maybe let us know down below what else you want to see. Cheaper cars, more expensive cars? Oh, just have a fantastical day. See you later.